everyone, welcome to the series where we talk about death and losing people we love and all the really awful feelings that come with it. You ready for a good time? Come on board! I'm Lauren-Blair Donovan and this is Good Grief, where I share the incredibly painful experiences of my life, such as losing my parents, a couple close friends, and other people that I genuinely loved and cared about, all for entertainment. Just kidding. I feel super alienated with my experiences because we just don't talk about the grieving process in this culture. And I really want to be the change that I want to see in the world, and I want to help people better understand what grief is like so they don't alienate people who are going through the hardest life change ever. And I want to help you little grievers out there in the land to hopefully feel seen and feel a little bit less alone. I thought one of the first videos should be why grief is like nothing else, because I think once we're on that page, like we're all on the same page, it'll be kind of smoother sailing, because it's sort of a really big part of why grief is so complicated and why it's so hard and why it's so hard for people to like understand why it's different. The amount of people who compared me losing my dad to them breaking up with their boyfriend or girlfriend was not only a not accurate comparison, but it was kind of creepy. But I think we as humans like to compare because it's our way of trying to be understanding and say, hey, you're not alone in this pain, which is beautiful in concept, often terrible in execution. And with death, there really isn't anything comparable, and I wanted to really tackle that in hopes that, yeah, we all understand each other for all the videos coming forward. Let's tackle this. I think the main thing that makes death different than anything else, and it feels like a Captain Obvious statement, so bear with me here, but like, your loved one's never coming back. Like, ever. Like, ever, 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 ever. What else in life is like that? Think about it. Let's talk about other forms of loss and grief that one can go through in their lifetime, such as a breakup. We'll go with that, even though I just kind of made fun of that example. There's a method to my madness, trust me. You know what? You really might stay broken up with the person forever. That's valid. That could happen. The thing is, though, sometimes couples get back together. And even if you hate this person, or even if like you're moving to like Antarctica or whatever, and like you're really not going to see them again, sometimes life has a funny way of bringing people back together, and you read those stories where it's like, oh, this couple broke up when they were 20 and then they went on and they had their lives, they married other people and they had 5 kids each, and then at 60, when they're both widows, they found love again. Look, that's probably not going to be you, so fair enough. While grieving a relationship is incredibly painful, and I would never take that away from anyone, it's a huge loss. It's just different because A, they're still alive, and B, weirder things can happen. Your situation might not be permanent. You really could be back together either next Tuesday or 50 years from now. I don't know, I'm not psychic. There's also instances where family members can become estranged due to a myriad of reasons. You know the drill. You've seen TV and movies. It happens. Maybe it happened in your own life. But the thing is, sometimes you do get like a phone call out of the blue, or you find a way to reconcile, or people change. Again, maybe that's not going to be you. People 100% go their whole lives without ever reconciling with their family. So if you are estranged from your family, I hope that's not the case. I hope you guys can find a way to build a bridge back to each other. But that's the thing. There's no version of that when someone's dead. It's like, oh, I hope they resurrect. It's not happening. Like, my dad was just a human man. He held no mythological powers that have been passed down in multiple mythologies, religions, all that. He's just a dude, guys. He's dead, okay? Like, same thing goes for when friends stab you in the back or you have a falling out. You really might not ever talk to them again, but weirder things happen. Again, like, you really can patch things up. And if nothing else, with your estranged family members, with your exes, with your friends that you had a really terrible fight that you have not yet or ever will bounce back from, you can like Facebook stalk them. You know they're alive, you know if they're married, you have the option of checking up on them. You can kind of watch them from afar. It's It's really creepy. It's not really my way of doing things. Like maybe once every 5 years, someone from my past, I'm like, oh, what are they up to? Are they alive? What's happening? Mostly though, it's like scorched earth. Like if you're not in my life, get out. Like I don't want to know what you're up to. That feels extra stalkery with me. And it's like I'm creepy in other ways. I don't need to be like knowing what people that are not in my life are up to, but whatever. But I have the option. I have the privilege. I can totally cyberstalk them. I can't cyberstalk my mom. She has not had a status update in 2.5 years. And not just because she was never really good at Facebook and didn't know how to use it. She's dead. She doesn't have an account anymore. It sucks. Most kinds of losses are not inherently permanent. They can be, for sure, but truth and time is going to tell that. There's still a myriad of possibilities about how the rest of that story is going to go. Even if a couple years have passed and you really haven't talked at all, that next year you could. You always have the chance of bumping into someone at the grocery store or at an airport or something that's from your past, and maybe that's when you have that conversation if both of you are too chicken or not interested in reaching out. Sometimes you're forced to see each other in person and then you figure it out, and that's beautiful. I'm literally never gonna bump into one of my parents when I'm in the cereal aisle buying Cinnamon Toast Crunch, as all adult ladies do, and get to hug it out. Like, it's literally physically not an option for me. And the reason why I'm really drilling this in is because the concept of death is absurd, you guys. It's a weird thing. That's so weird that you can be here one day and then the next, poof, you're gone. Again, it's like a very Captain Obvious thing, but because we don't really talk about this as people, because it's considered morbid, even though it's a life fact, it's when it actually happens to you, you're like, oh my God, they're really not here. I cannot, and you get depressed every time you want to pick up the phone to call them. You get depressed every time you go through a major life change, good or bad, and you realize they're not going to be a part of it. They can't lend their perspective on it. They can't tell you it's going to be okay, whatever it may or may not be. They also aren't there for the more inconsequential stuff. Like when my dog does something really stupid, but it's hilarious. My mom loved those stories. I can't tell her those stories anymore. If I do, I'm talking to air. There's no reaction, you know? It's why it's so infuriating when people do make the breakup comparison or talk about other family troubles, because I think when you lose someone in your family and you have somebody that is maybe from a divorced family or maybe from a situation where there's maybe substance abuse and there's someone in the family that's estranged or what have you, there is a little bit of a Venn diagram overlap because they are grieving a loss. They are grieving the family that they once had. So I can meet people halfway to some extent, but it's kind of like I can understand you because we both have been through various family life changes that were traumatic and tragic, and it was a lot to process. That we have in common. You still have your family though. I laugh out of kind of nervousness because it's so absurd that I have to say this, but people really don't get it. Yeah, they know my parents aren't coming back. They know the friends that I lost are not coming back. But at the same time, because they have not personally been through certain things, a lot of people don't understand how frustrating that concept is firsthand. When you realize there's literally no way to cyberstalk, there's no way to track down their new number, there's no possibility of running into them at Disney World. It's just the permanence of death is really like nothing else I can think of. Because most other things in life, you don't know if it's going to be for the rest of your life, I guess, until a certain point. Or sometimes you get, in the instance of a breakup, you maybe eventually, hopefully, probably get a new lovely significant other who's maybe even better. I'm not being adopted at this age. And even if I could be, which would be really weird, they can't replace the people I literally grew up with. That's not a thing. So basically for the rest of my life, I'm working at a deficit. My parents died too young. And my dad especially, but my mom as well, miss out on day-to-day activities, big life changes, trivial things that they would have gotten a kick out of. And there is no replacement for that. So every life change that I have, whether it's good or bad, like a marriage or a divorce, a move to a new place, a new career highlights, career lowlights, like being fired or something, not only do they not get to see, but I don't get to experience that with them. They have missed out, my dad especially, on so much because he died when I was an incredibly young adult. And my mom only died 2.5 years ago, but a lot's kind of happened in the past 2.5 years. So it's been pretty wild to have her be gone too, because we were at the point in life where we talked most days. So that was a big challenge. There's no replacement for that. I have really wonderful people in my life who I do get to talk to, in some cases more days than not. And if nothing else, I know I have people who are in my corner, but there's nothing quite like, no one's gonna be my parent again. I can be single, I can be in a relationship, I can be married, all that can change, and I can turn around and do it again. When people are dead, they're really dead, and you can't replace people in that sense. Even in the instance of a friend passing away, you absolutely have more than one friend, and you're going to continue, hopefully, to make more friends throughout your life. But the memories you have with that friend is buried forever. Yes, that can very much be the case when you have a falling out with a friend who's still alive. But again, stranger things can happen. I 100% have people in my life where we had a falling out of sorts, or we just drifted even, like, more innocuously. And then a few years later, we're friends again. It's not impossible. I'm not trying to gaslight you. I know some friendships really do never make it back to what they once were. And those are really complicated feelings. And I've been there too. I've had people that I've had falling outs with, and I don't think we're gonna, get back together. But at the same token, my friends that passed away, I'm never gonna get a chance to catch up with them or say anything to them that I wish that I said in our lifetimes that we shared together. I'm probably gonna say this to some extent in more videos than not, but we don't discuss death as a culture. For some reason, we have been conditioned to be incredibly uncomfortable with anything associated to dying. It's considered morbid, or it's considered maybe even TMI. I think people sometimes don't want to hear the medical things that are going down when someone's dying. I don't think people want to hear the personal emotions, like the depths of them, because it's heavy and we're not used to sometimes having more than small talk depending on our social circles or circumstances. I think we all do ourselves a major disservice by not talking about these things, which is why I'm being the weirdo on the internet who is. I think if we talk more about this stuff, we may not ever understand what it's like to walk in shoes that we haven't walked in, but I do think that we might have better language to bridge those gaps and realize that mourning someone is an incredibly, incredibly heavy process. As I said, they're not coming back, and that's absurd. It's absurd AF. There's a lot of mental gymnastics that your brain has to do to process that, because I think even when we're going through stuff, we try to compare it to things. We try to compare it to things we've been through. And there's really nothing like it. It's kind of like how they say you don't know what it's like to be a parent until you become a parent. I would argue and wager that it's probably really similar. You don't know what it's like to lose someone, especially in an untimely fashion, like they died before their time type thing, or when you were very young and maybe still developing, or young enough in a way that it's unusual for your peer group and you're gonna be kind of the black sheep by default by going through that loss. You don't know what it's like to lose someone until you lose them. I've been through a lot of really bad stuff in my life, which I will not be the weirdo and share with you on the internet. However, there is something extra perplexing and extra just hard to swallow about watching someone die and never seeing them again and confronting one's own emotions, all the emotions that come with that. It is incredibly challenging, incredibly fatiguing, incredibly just sad, which is a Captain Obvious thing, but I don't think I have the words. It's devastating. It's awful. And I've been through other devastating stuff, but it's hard. You can't explain it. Just like you can't explain, I'm assuming, what it's like to be a parent. I'm not a parent. I'm kind of private on the internet, but I don't really have a problem admitting that I don't have kids. And I wish more people would just kind of trust that the pain of losing a parent is not like anything you've been through unless you've been through it. So in addition to it being hard to explain and it being absurd AF, it's also really alienating because we live in a world where it's like, don't talk about this stuff. So there's a lot that goes on behind closed doors. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of why grief is like nothing else. It's just, guys, it's really complicated. It's misunderstood. And I really can't think of anything that's as permanent as death. Before all the other videos that are more personal, anecdote heavy, or general tips on how to help people, what not to do, and just other interesting observations that I've made through my own experiences, I thought this was a really important early video to do because I think I will be referencing this quite a bit, and let's just all be on the same page. Guys, death is weird. Grief is weird. It's not really like other things. On that note, I hope you have a good day. Sorry to bum you out. Not sorry. We need to talk about this stuff, guys. Again, I am Lauren-Blair Donovan. Please hit subscribe, like this video, ask questions that you have about grief, because while I've guesstimated what I think people's questions are based on how they've treated me, I don't think I can anticipate every single thing that people might be curious about. So I really would appreciate any kind of like curious thoughts you have about what it's like to lose someone. And I will be happy to try to bum you out and answer them honestly. I'm at Blairosaurus_Rex because I'm difficult. I've made fraternal social media handles. My name is Blair, and I fancy myself a dinosaur, so that's a good way to remember it. Please follow me, because I'll be posting updates when I have new videos, but also that's why you hit the subscribe button, the little bell thingy, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good day.